Not great, Bob.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2025 debut of Boxes and Bull, our thrice-weekly morning show, reviewing box scores, talking baseball, and hanging out. Charlotte already exited stage left. She knows the deal, and she's not having it. That was a crispy one. We started off with a banger. Welcome, everybody. So we're looking at Monday, Wednesday. Did I say Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Let me look. Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. We're doing a weekend one. Look at that. Monday, Wednesday, Saturday for Boxes and Bull. Thrice weekly. All three of those come off of full slates. You know, technically we don't always get a full slate because teams didn't play yesterday. very weird, but generally Sundays are full, Tuesdays are full, and Fridays are full. Outside of the occasional random schedule, such as the opening weekend. If you're new here, basically what we do, it's called Boxes and Bull because we look at box scores while I drink my Red Bull. Some of you folks like morning coffee. I like morning Red Bull because I'm psychotic. And then, we kind of go where we go from there. I'm a big out of the park baseball fan, and there's a game in there called PT Live where we build, it's kind of like a little DFS style game every day. So we'll build our lineups for that. We'll play Immaculate Grid. Gonna play this new game called MLB Spinball. Won't always have time for every game. I'm original sugar free, like through and through. I will try some of the new flavors, but I always come back to my sugar free. How about that walk-off offensive? It's offensive, all right. It's offensive, all right. We'll talk about the Marlins. They are the walk-off kings, though, that's for sure. So let's dive right in. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Celsius. Oh, my girlfriend likes Celsius a lot, Adam. Celsius got some good flavors. They got some dope flavors. I'm actually hoping that German Marquez does well. I root for him. Even though I had to be a big hating-ass B on him after his big pop-off season when he had that huge second half, the fantasy community wanted to get excited about him, and I had to pour a bunch of cold water on that. Not that it was even some great call, by the way. I'm not back-patting here. But, if you were around for that, you might think I'm a German Marquez hater. I'm really not. I'm just a realist. And no one beats Coors. And that was really the only point I was making. But, it looked like I was just hating on him. Was it 2018 where he really went crazy in the second half? Yeah. Second half 2018, 261, like it was unbelievable. But for fantasy purposes, no. I hope he does well. I'm rooting for him, but you're never going to find me fully recommending him for fantasy. Maybe some road games in the right situation if he looks good this year. But, we keep him at arm's length. I think I saw something that said the Pirates were the first team to have their first 3 losses by walk-off since the 1924. Wait for it. Pirates. That's insane, GT. I love that stuff in baseball, and there's so much of it. Has such a long history, and yet these coincidences, things like that always pop up. It's nuts. All right, well, let's get started. No Tigers to start us off. By the way, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm signed in. Oh, maybe I'm not. Okay, well, that explains it. Never mind. I was wondering why the Tigers weren't popping at the top on the days that they do play, and it's because I'm not signed in. I don't know when I got signed out of ESPN, but I'll get signed back in tomorrow. Do we even play today? We have to, right? We don't get 2 days off in a row. There we go. Oh, that's right. Night Owl Paul continues because we're still on the West Coast. Love it. All right, let's go out to New York and get started with Yankees Brewers. Yankees complete the sweep 3-0. Now, obviously, the big talk has been the torpedo bats. Even though they're not new, they're not being used by everyone. I don't even think Judge is using one, right? And he blasted 52 bombs himself. So I get why they're, catching some attention, but they're not new. And they're not like the reason that they hit so many homers. That said, we're going to see players ordering them, trying theirs out. It is interesting. Ryan Jeffers used one yesterday. He got skunked. Yeah, I mean, they're not miracle bats. Exactly. Ketel Marte had one all the way back in 2019. In fact, before we get into it, let's just before we get into the box score, let's just do the torpedo bat thing. So Kevin Smith, generic name, but you may remember him, former player Kevin Smith had some information about it. And I didn't realize this at first, that this was the player. And then I was like looking, because someone, I think the CBS Fantasy Podcast brought this tweet up, and I was like, Kevin Smith. And then I saw the top up here. I'm like, that's Kevin Smith. That's former player, like pretty decent prospect, like solid player. I'm gonna give him a follow. But anyway, he was talking about it here on Friday. You get a picture on the side-by-side. So obviously this side-by-side, makes it look like it's just massively bigger. And thus, got people like, is this even legal? Again, been used for a few years now and well within the rights of what you can and can't use. And basically what it is it's kind of moving the barrel a bit, the fatter part of it, to where you hit the ball more often. I saw on MLB Tonight last night, it was Matt Vasgersian and Jake Peavy, and Matty V was just kind of using like an example just to, kind of overstate it or whatever. He's like, yeah, if you hit it on the trademark or below, they can move it down there. And Jake Peavy's like, well, if you're hitting it below the trademark consistently, you're going back to AAA, which is true. There's no torpedo bat that's going to save you from that. But if you do hit closer to the trademark, or even, just right above it, they can move the barrel down there. In fact, I think one of the impetus for Volpe was that he was hitting it down there a bit more often. It's like when they make the hole playing out of the black box. Right. That is a very old joke. That might even be like a Seinfeld original. Morning, Tampa. How you doing? Baseball fan. Good to see you. If the black box always survives, why don't they just make the whole point of it? Fuck Seinfeld, though. Great show, but fuck that guy. Torpedo, axe handle, and scooped end. Let's go. Absolutely, Churro. Let's just get all the latest and greatest going. Rumdeezy, A Hunter, great to see you. What up, Peach? Peach ready to celebrate his Marlins. We'll get to him. The one guy I like from your lineup popping off. Kyle Stowers. What up, Trey? I do have some breakfast coming here in a little bit, but I wanted to get started ASAP. Like getting clubs fitted to your golf swing. And then that was also what Vasgersian and PV zeroed in on, and I totally, I think that's the perfect analogy. Sharp Square, what's going on? So yeah, literal MIT physicist helped them with this. Oh, I'm super doubting Bednar. It's rough. The only thing that saves you from Bednar right now is who the hell else they gonna go to, because the other guys are flopping too. Anyway, yesterday was actually quiet compared to Saturday because they dropped a 20 berg on Saturday, only 12 yesterday. Aaron Judge, 4 bombs. He's unbelievable. Jazz, another 2. Ben Rice gets his first. Stroh couldn't even cap the easy W, though. He goes 4 2/3. Tim Hill comes in for 1 1/3 perfect. Mark Leiter, Fernando Cruz, Ryan Yarbrough finish it out. And they finish the sweep. But the offense went absolutely crazy. Jason Dominguez didn't really get in on the party, as you can see, but still had a good OBP, 364. Volpe's composite numbers aren't great, but at least he went yard. I think everyone, most of them went crazy, as you can see from these numbers. But even Dominguez and Volpe, who didn't get in on too much of it, at least did something. I don't think Dominguez has a homer, though, right? No, so he's just got a bunch of walks for his good OBP, and then Volpe did hit a homer. Absolutely agree with that, GT. Minerva, enjoy your lurk. Welcome. Thank you. So Judge, they didn't want any smoke after the homer in the first, and I frankly don't blame them. So he had 3 walks after that. He was just completely dialed in. One of the best players in the game. I mean, how deep do you get on the list? 2, 3? You can't really get much deeper than that before you have to go with Judge. He's just unbelievable. And yet I feel this year that people were like resigned to taking him. I didn't hear nearly enough Aaron Judge hype, and I count myself among that. And I don't know why. I didn't have opportunities to get him. I didn't have a lot of high picks this year. But I feel like even the 2 times that I was high-ish, I was like looking for reasons not to take him. Like, why? Just take Aaron Judge. He's unbelievable. And I know there's concerns about his health too, and I get it. That body style is tough to keep out. He's had issues, himself, and then that body style as a whole is tough. And I get it, losing Soto, but like, I still liked their lineup, even with all their, their pitching injuries. That doesn't really affect Judge. And he was still going high in fantasy, don't get me wrong. But again, I feel like the people that were picking around 3 or 4 were like, oh, guess I'll take Aaron Judge. It's like, okay, enjoy your great player. Okay, can this not autoplay? Hang on. I got an idea. I think it's because I'm not signed in. I don't think it like blatantly shows your password or whatever, but let me do it. Let me do it on a different screen real quick. Because it's going to drive me nuts. All right, Tigers at the top, A's second, we're signed in. And boom, autoplay gone. Let's go. We're back, baby. We're absolutely back. Dude, the Saturday game with 3 pitches and 3 bombs to Nestor was unbelievable. Now, I had this wrong, but for a moment there, I thought his last appearance of 24 was the Freddie homer. So I thought it was 4 pitches, 4 homers, but he had an inning and a third a game or 2 later in the World Series. So it wasn't, but how crazy would that have been? Yo, Nix, what's going on? Really enjoying sitting in an auto repair shop waiting for a tire? I doubt you are, but hopefully I can make it a little less painful there. Yeah, Adam, I agree with that. We did learn about the lack of depth for Milwaukee, which, I mean, we kind of knew, right? I will say, I wrote up Milwaukee for, let's see if it pops up in their articles over here. Did they get tagged? No. Okay, so I get that makes sense because then every pitcher would be tagged. But for our positional preview, can I find that very easily? Our positional power rankings. We should have them in the sidebar there for like, a month into the season or whatever. Oh shit, we gotta fix that picture. Navigating my own website. I mean, you know what I mean. The website I work at. Hang on. All right, I got it. Positional power rankings. Let's go to 16 to 30. So this was the section I had, and the Brewers were actually 16th. Now, these rankings are based on WAR and our projections, and so they can change as we're writing them. if a big injury hits or a signing comes up, like things can fluctuate. I actually didn't get the Brewers until like the day my article was due. I refreshed and they moved from 14 or 15 down to 16. So they moved into my section. So I had to kind of write them up right there at the very end. And this is how I tabbed it. A frontliner and a pack of number 4s. Now, they make that work. They do make that work a lot. And I'm not so certain that they can't this year, this series notwithstanding, of course, because we can't count Woodruff yet. I think the projection is actually pretty aggressive on Woodruff, and I love him. I hope that he's this good, but I think this is a little aggro off rip. So I think it's Peralta and then a bunch of number 4s, and they lost kind of the best of them, Tobias Myers, to an oblique before the season even started. So then you got Savali, Quintana, Cortez, and that, I mean, I called Quintana, Savali, Cortez a good, better, best version of the same pitcher, which is to say a solid but unspectacular arm. So I agree. They don't have a ton of depth behind Peralta, and it got exposed this week. All in all, though, I still think that they can survive with it. I don't think it's crushing. The Yankees are just pretty awesome. Like, they got a dope offense. Homers galore. Homers are up. We'll see if it's the ball or just one weekend. We're always making sharp judgments off of one weekend. Jake Bauers stole a little Yankee Stadium type homer, and it was like literally at the very corner edge of right field there. It was about as shallow as it can be there. Still counts. I'm not saying that to like dog him out. Take advantage of your surroundings. Sperry, thank you so much for the 17. I appreciate that. Yeah, I still think they'll contend for the division too. NL Central's just not that difficult. Yeah, Jake Bauers, didn't he pitch twice? Which is disgusting, by the way. Yeah, he pitched 2 days in a row, and Nicky Lopez pitched on opening day. Also disgusting. Oh, what the hell? Why did my back button stop working? Oh, that's so frustrating. Just randomly. Just now, like randomly. God, that's gonna be annoying. I can't do it. I have to restart the browser. Hang on. I'm gonna put this screen up real quick. I have to restart the browser. I can't not have a back button. It's gonna drive me absolutely insane. It just stops working sometimes, and I really don't understand why. Come on. Take longer. All right, let's see. Bauer, ERA, and OPS lead the team. That's amazing. I didn't even realize that aspect. All right. Did that work? Okay, it only reopened one of the things I had open. We're not getting angry. It's fine. It's cool. It's chill. There we go. Now can we use a back button? No, we still can't. Okay, that's even worse. Like, what? Why, dude? Fucking why? Why would the mouse back button just stop working randomly? That shit drives me insane. But I use it so often, like I really need it to fucking work. I'm not scrolling over here and clicking the back button like a loser. Can I use it with my other mouse? Let's try a mouse change. All right, that worked. So we got a mouse rotation. It could have been worse. Well, yeah. So wait, did you have like a blowout or something? Is that why you had to get a tire? Oh, shit. I blew a tire on 81 last night. I almost flipped over. Oh my God. Nix, I'm sorry I missed that message. I'm so glad you're okay. That's terrifying, dude. Oh. I got tricked. The new mouse did not work. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, I don't know what the hell's going on. Button, how you doing? By the way, with regards to Nestor, actually, let's bring up projected starters. I think he's cuttable in shower leagues where he was already kind of fringy. He gets Cincinnati. Oh, Cincinnati and at Colorado for his next two starts. Yeah, I would definitely cut Cortez. And again, he wasn't like a must-have in 12-teamers anyway. But I think that's a cut. Same with Savali. I had Cortez a little bit higher than Savali. I think they're both cuts because Cincinnati, even though it's not in Cincinnati, that they're still there's still a solid lineup coming to Milwaukee and then trips to Colorado for both of them. Yeah, hard pass. Dude, Peralta at Colorado, at Arizona next week. That will be an interesting decision. That's a really good pitcher with a disastrous two-step. I'm curious if I'll be recommending him next week, but that'll be for next week, so we'll see. All right, hang on one second. My breakfast is here. All right, let's keep moving. So obviously there'll be lots of hand-wringing about 0-3, 0-4 starts. It can get to a point early where, the data is bad. No team that started, 1-8 has ever done this, that, or the other, right? We'll start to get into some of that, but right now I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry on the negative end, and I wouldn't assume that my team is like amazing on the positive end. It's still one weekend, but we get starved for analysis, right? Okay, the back button is not fucking working, and it's gonna drive me nuts. I'll stop bitching about it, but it's gonna drive me nuts this whole fucking episode. Anyway, let's go out to Walgreens and talk about the Nats. They salvage one. They get a 5-1 victory over Philadelphia. Tough that they couldn't win that game one when Mackenzie Gore absolutely went bananas there with 13 punchies and one hit in 6 innings of work. But Mitchell Parker was dealing against a little bit of a B team version of the Phillies yesterday. Let's keep that in mind. I'm a Mitchell Parker fan. So, I'm pro Mitchell Parker. I was a little bit nervous based on the early outings, though, the schedule, because he has Arizona, Philly, Arizona to start. Obviously gets at Miami next week, which will be great. But I was definitely a little bit worried. I think he might have been slated for the Dodgers originally. Maybe not. I can't remember. But I knew when he had Philly, I was a little bit concerned. And so I ended up cutting him in my main event where I took him with the last round pick because I was like, I'm not going to use him for these first 2 starts. Well, he popped off here. People were picking him up, obviously, even with Arizona this week. He did have, didn't he have like 13? Or no, he had a bunch of called strikes. I don't think he actually had a bunch of swings and misses. Where is he? Yeah, only 7 swings and misses and 93 pitches. So, you know, he wasn't exactly cutting them up. 7 hits, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Again, I like Mitchell Parker. He's a deeper league guy. Let's not go crazy based off of this. On the other end, you know, Aaron Nola, he'll have dud outings. Still had 8 Ks, no walks, couple homers, got him. Josh Bell and Nathaniel Lowe. If you follow my work, you know I'm huge on Nathaniel Lowe this year. A couple homers in the first weekend feels nice. I like Josh Bell too, by the way, going back to Washington where he had his best success. Oh, perfect ham bone. I didn't even realize we were at the Elite 69. Tampa, you can put it in the chat. Someone in the chat might get to it, but it might be a little while before I get to it. But maybe somebody in chat can help you out who also plays PT. Finnegan gets his first save. It's a clean one, which, hey, you'll take with all the closer carnage this weekend. Your B tier, C tier, even I would say, as far as Kyle Finnegan goes. Him getting a clean save, you just got to be loving that. You just like, okay, thank you, because everything was so sketchy this weekend. Edmundo Sosa had a couple hits in the loss. I mentioned Nathaniel Lowe. He had 3 hits. So did Paul DeYoung. 2 runs for Ruiz and Lowe. 2 ribbies for Lowe. 3 for Bell. And again, they go 1-2 to Phillies 2-1. Bro Pat, glad to be back indeed. How you doing? Oh, you shouldn't really look at ERA at all. Tampa Tarpons. You should do strikeout minus walk rate and whip more than ERA. Like, what kind of base runners are they allowing, and what kind of core skills, strikeouts and walks, are they showing? Here, I will answer that real quick. So here's my pitching. Let me do time frame. Last year, low diamond. So, ERA, like, it tells you something. Wait, what the hell? It can tell you some information, but it's not a great measure of who's good and who's bad necessarily. You want to know what are their skills, because you're trying to project forward. ERA kind of tells you what's happened, doesn't necessarily tell you what will happen. So sorting by strikeout minus walk rate. By the way, I also have 5 new guys because I completed some stuff yesterday. So that's why half my rotation is new. But of the guys I did have, obviously Herboski's a reliever. You got to go to customize, and then you can fill in the stuff that you want. Pitching stats. Do I have my... No, hang on. There we go. The OTP settings video. That's from an older version, but it'll still work. New league start in 38 minutes. Yep, lower's worse. You want higher strikeout to walk ratio. And I'm a percentages guy over per 9. But strikeout to walk ratio, like K/BB, that works too. But percentages are just more precise. Seattle wins 2-1 to get a 2-2 split there against Oakland. That was a pretty compelling series for 2 teams that, like, their offenses suck. I'm not really dying to watch either offense. Well, you can kind of Google, like, for more details on exactly like what FIP is and what it does. You can kind of Google that or look in the glossary here over at Fangraphs. It's like an ERA scaled version of strikeout minus walk and other things. But, like, yeah, if you like looking at something that is similar to ERA, then FIP can help you out there. But I would look at FIP before I'd look at ERA. But yeah, outside of the 7-0 game, this was a pretty fun back and forth. And this one really only blew up late. So I found this series more compelling than I thought I would coming into it. Because again, two pretty modest offenses in the worst hitter's park in baseball. Some good pitching, especially on the Seattle side, that definitely excited to watch. I'm an Osvaldo Bido fan as well, so I was interested in watching him. That's probably it on the Athletics side. As Severino, I've got a soft spot for Severino. I wasn't like super excited about him coming into the year fantasy-wise because I just don't know how that minor league park's going to play. But I do root for him. So Seattle cops the 2-1 win. Couple homers did all of the damage. A 2-run shot by J-Rod and a solo shot by Tyler Soderstrom, his third of the year already. He's on fire. He was the lone 2-hit guy for Oakland. Or excuse me, geez, that's going to be difficult to not do all year. For the Athletics, Soderstrom off to a fantastic start. I mean, he's got major talent. The key will be when things aren't going super well, how often is he striking out? Because he doesn't have the best plate skills. Neither his strikeout nor his walk rate is particularly good. In fact, even in the 4 games that we've seen so far this year, it's a pretty wretched rate. So that's really going to be key. I will say last year's figures, 25% and 9% respectively for the strikeout and walk, that can work. With the kind of power that he has, that can absolutely work. Oh, extra fries, that is probably, oh yeah, a little too hype for the morning. I agree, Kim. Still a banger, though. Still an absolute banger. And I know a lot of fantasy folks are desperately hoping that Soderstrom can get some catching eligibility. I got to be honest, I think All-Star break would be the earliest that we see it. I just don't see a ton of it happening. I mean, he's not the backup catcher. They have one, Johnny Pareda. Maybe if they need the roster spot and they're like, let's boot Pareda to get an extra pitcher or something, and we can let Soderstrom back up. But I don't know. I don't really see the avenue. Yeah, it's such a focus and a grind. He's not good at it either. I get it. We're selfish fantasy folks, so we want it for that purpose. But I don't really see the incentive for them to do it either. Again, unless they desperately need the roster spot and then kick Pareda off, I just don't see it. Who I do see getting it is Hunter Goodman. He's already caught twice. Oh yeah, that's right. There's limits now on how many pitchers you can even hold. Great call, Caged. I totally forgot about that. That's a great call. But yeah, Goodman's catching. I think he's going to continue to hold catcher. I think he's catcher eligible already anyway. But he can even secure it for next year, which will take 20 games in most formats. So, no worries there. No worries there with Goodman. We're hoping to secure it for next year. Sears pitched pretty well, 6 2/3, just the solo or the 2-run shot to J-Rod, 7 punchies, no walks. I was big on Sears during his prospect days, and now at age 29, we've got some sample under his belt. Just doesn't miss enough bats. You basically have to be, if you're gonna run K rates that are in the low 20s or even sub 20 like last year, the walk rate has to be 4%, 5%, 7%. That is a good walk rate, but it has to be on the extreme positive end to sustain that kind of strikeout rate. and he's just not quite there. And again, with the new park, what is it, Sutter Home, the park in Sacramento makes me nervous. He was somebody that you could see some value in last year at the Coliseum. Yeah, totally with you, Red Rhino. I would stream him at the Coliseum sometimes against weaker opponents, things like that. But now the home park is a detriment to these guys that it does make it tough to run him. So, you know. Brian Wu. 6 innings, 1 run, 3 hits, 2 walks, 5 punchies. Santos and Thornton get it to Munoz, who gives up a hit but gets 2 punchies and shuts it down. Yeah, mostly start guys in Seattle. Seattle's lineup and the park, but there's limits. But they get the 2-2 split there in the 4 games. Yeah, 2-1 it's Swag. How you doing? It's great to see you. Such a Seattle score. Again, these were all pretty Seattle scores except for Oakland kind of getting loose late in the Friday game where they went 7-0. 4-2, 4-2, 2-1 for the other 3. Very fitting of the park and the offenses that we were seeing. Toronto earns a split. They get a 3-1 win at home there against Baltimore. They got mollywopped in the opener 12-2. Came back with an 8-2 victory. Then lost 9-5 and then won 3-1. So up and down series there between 2 division rivals. Chris Bassett looking sharp. 6 innings of 1 run ball, scattered 8 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. 13 swinging strikes on 106 pitches. That's not bad. You can definitely work with that. Sagano, he was pitching all right, but then he had a hand cramp apparently. The ball is bigger, so maybe there was something to do with that. 2 runs on 4 hits, 2 walks. The 2 walks was pretty alarming because this is a guy, he might not have a great strikeout rate, but he can run, the like 4% or better walk rate that I was saying JP Sears needs to. So when we saw 2 walks, I was like, oh, I wasn't surprised that something was amiss, and then he had to come out with the hand cramp. I didn't really buy into the spring on Sagano. I was willing to kind of miss on him. The one thing that I would change my tune on is if the strikeouts have some realness to them. I don't think that they do. But 25% K rate during spring with a 12% swinging strike. If there's legitimacy there, okay. But he was always not always. I guess he had some higher strikeouts in his late 20s. But his last 3 years in Japan, 17, 18% strikeout rate. I'd be surprised if he comes over to the States and just starts missing a ton more bats. The one thing that could change there, though, is that he realizes in this league you need more strikeouts, so maybe he goes for them a little bit more. But this is like a kitchen sink, softer tossing guy. Softer, not soft tossing, 93.5. That's not soft. It's funny how that is below average now. That's kind of crazy. But he's not, he's not Kyle Hendricks out there. But you can see it's a kitchen sink approach. Five legit pitches, 4-seam, cutter, splitter, sinker, slider, curve, all at 11% or more. So he's throwing anything he can to get you out there. We'll see what happens with the hand cramp stuff, if it's anything to worry about. Kind of a bummer that that's what took him out. Hoffman gets his first save with a perfect 9th, 2 strikeouts. Bassett was somebody that I was looking at this year as like maybe a good buyback. There was really nothing in the profile that stood out and said, well, jump back in, except just the track record, right? But he's also 36, so there was pluses and minuses on each side there. One thing I was wondering is if maybe having Max back. Max was a little bit of a player coach for him. back in New York. I know Max himself went out, unfortunately, with his thumb, which is a real bummer. I was hoping Scherzer could stay healthy. But obviously, he's still going to be there. And again, I don't know. I don't want to put too much into it. I know he and Bassett are really close and helped him with some things in New York. Could help him get him back on track this year. He wasn't that far off from the Chris Bassett that we know last year, right? It was actually just a lot more hits going through and some more walks. Something that is definitely correctable. And so we'll see. We'll see. I didn't end up getting Bassett anywhere. Still 36. I'm not super hot on Toronto, but I did move him up my rankings late where I was like, okay, I'm going to give him a little bit more love than I was. I was kind of discarding him a little bit because even at 36, I think we could see a bit of a rebound. I don't think he's a 146 whip, but we'll see. He was 167 yesterday, so even in the good game yesterday, the whip was still hot. We'll see if he can survive and keep the hits down. Jackson Holliday got his first steal of the year, a couple hits for O'Hearn. It was a light offensive day for the O's. Hell, it was a light offensive day in general. George Springer with a couple hits, including a double, 2 ribbies, and a Tyler Heineman homer did the damage for the Jays. Moving out to Tampa Bay, actually Tampa Bay now instead of St. Petersburg, Steinbrenner Field. Rays win 6-4 to take the series over the Rockies. 3-2, 2-1, 6-4. Taj Bradley, excellent outing for him. 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, no walks, and 7 strikeouts. 12 swinging strikes and 78 pitches. Love to see it. Obviously not the most difficult opponent, but there's a lot of concern about that ballpark for the Rays pitchers, which I totally understand. It is a minor league ballpark in a warm weather state, but I don't think the weather is crazy warm right now. And it is still the Rockies, which, you know, who don't we start against the Rockies on the road? Rocky Road, as our boy Nick Pollock says. Is it the MLB box scores that give the weather? There's one of the box score sites out there. Yeah, here we go. I'll bring this up. Just 80 degrees with some wind. So, you know, not cold, but not the sweltering heat yet. And again, a modest lineup. Now, I have heard some grumblings that there are some weather patterns, like with regards to wind, humidity, things like that, not just the straight temperature, that can make that park, maybe not play as hot. So we'll see. I imagine that's more for the early months here. And they are trying to do different things based on their schedule to avoid some of the rain. So we'll see how it goes. I made a last-minute decision before my main events, my 2 biggest drafts. I jumped back in on the Rays pitchers. Now, I didn't end up with like a bunch of shares, but I moved them back up my board. I'd been just kind of debating all offseason. I started high. I moved them down after some of the concerns about the park, and I said, you know what? I'm going to bet on the talent. I'm a huge fan of this rotation outside of Shane Baz. Sorry. I just haven't gotten there with Baz. But the rest of the rotation, sorry, Zach Littell, I don't mean you. I mean Shane McClanahan. But Pepio, McClanahan, Bradley, Rasmussen, huge fan of all 4. Think they're just insanely talented. If they were in the Trop, I would have had them 3 rounds higher and, on most of my teams because the Trop is a legit pitcher's park. Again, I tapped the brakes a little bit being in Steinbrenner Field for like the middle part of draft season. So my February and early March drafts, I was a little, tepid on them. And then, like I said, by mid-March, I said, forget it. I'm just going to bet on the talent. The only park, well, outside of Colorado, but that's its own thing because they don't usually have great pitchers anyway. But the only park where I really don't take guys because I worry about the park is Cincinnati. Like, I like Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, but I don't really take them because I worry about that park. and both have home run issues. And I just don't think that Tampa Bay park is going to be scary enough to avoid their good pitchers. But we'll see. And my favorite Rockies pitcher did pitch well on the road, Ryan Feltner. I wish he played for any other team so he could be more fantasy relevant. The only way you can really use him is on the road, and ideally in good starts if you can finagle a 2-start. He stays on the road for 2 more, though. The Athletics this weekend and then Milwaukee. I don't love going up against the Milwaukee lineup. I know they didn't have the best weekend in New York, but I still think they're a pretty competent lineup. But I wouldn't mind a deep league stream of Feltner here for these 2 starts. Blues, what's going on, man? Yes, we're going to have 103 wins each. It's going to be great. Yeah, Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green in any other park would excite me greatly. Mickey Moniak with a 2-run shot. Nick Martini with 3 hits. Okay. Sure. I'm still stunned that he won an opening day job. This is 2 years in a row now. Remember, Nick Martini secured a job with the Reds to open last year. He was getting legit PT. And I want to say he started off all right, but as you can see, he eventually came down to a 71 WRC plus. We'll see what he can do this year, but I don't really think he should be playing consistently. I hate to be such a hater, but come on, dude. This is why Jeff Erickson termed y'all the paste eaters. Because, I'm sorry, what are you doing? I know he came in and got the pinch hit homer, Moniak, but you should be playing him every day over Martini. Even Sean Bouchard you should be playing every day over Martini. Zach Veen, Yanquiel Fernandez. Okay, Sam Hilliard got DFA'd, but honestly, I'd probably rather be playing him. He's already 31. I did not realize Sam Hilliard actually a little bit older. Bottom line is, what are you playing 35-year-old Nick Martini for? To what end? Why? I just don't get it. Right, and it's okay, he had a good spring. Who gives a shit? Why did they even... In a way, and again, this sounds really mean to Nick Martini, no offense to him, but why did they give him enough of a chance to have a good... what are you doing with a 35-year-old outfielder? Oh, shit, Nick, you got to get a whole-ass wheel? Oh, that's a pain in the ass, dude. I'm so sorry. Anyway, enough with the Nick Martini hate hour. It's not his fault. I don't blame him, right? Keep playing as long as somebody's going to let you play. And he did go 3 for 4, so who am I to talk shit? Nick Martini breakout season going to leave chat with egg on all over our face. Yeah, well, and you know what? We'll take it. I will gladly keep tracking Nick Martini, and if he pops off this year, we'll make it a full meme all season, and I'll eat the L. Right. They traded for Tyler Freeman, a trade I actually didn't mind. Now, it's funny because they traded Nolan Jones, who they had just traded from Cleveland 2 years ago. But as far as what their needs were, the Tyler Freeman deal made some sense. So, of course, they start Kyle Farmer. Again, you cannot make this stuff up with the Rockies. What do they need to ease Moniak in? For what? He's 28. He's a 27, former number 1 overall pick. He's been through the ringer already. Just let him play. Why isn't Tyler Freeman playing over Kyle Farmer? Like, what does this organization do? Like, what are their decisions, man? Like, okay, Tyro Estrada gets hurt, so I totally get going for Freeman. Maybe sold a little bit low on Jones because he's coming off the bad year and you sold him back to the team that you got him from. Okay, people poke a little fun at them for that. But the trade made sense. GM probably asked the staffer for a martini, and instead of the drink, they brought him Nick Martini. No, I just want... Honestly, that makes sense. And they probably conflated something about wanting to improve their farm system, and so they brought in Kyle Farmer. These sound far-fetched, but it's the Rockies. So I think both of those are what happened. Extreme, thank you so much for the 7 months. Welcome. Yeah, I think we solved it, y'all. Nick Martini was just supposed to be an alcoholic drink, and it was misinterpreted, and Kyle Farmer... Steel Biscuits, I need to start posting them on YouTube. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to post them on YouTube. Signing a farmer makes sense with these fucking food prices. True. On the Rays side, Brandon Lau hit his first homer. 2-run shot. Very, very excited about him this year, especially in that ballpark. 3 homers for Johnny DeLuca. Caballero got a steal and was caught. Both of third base. Interesting. And then DeLuca with a couple steals. So big day for him. Three hits and 2 steals. Johnny DeLuca, interesting. Definitely, again, I play mostly deep leagues for fantasy, and that's where I really think his value was, like a 15-teamer. He's a bit more fringe in like your 12-teamers. But he should play every day, and if he can hit decently, if he can be like a league average type hitter, I think he'll run enough to have even like 12-team viability. He got 16 swipes last year in 107 games. Like, he can be a 30 steal guy. Like, he didn't even hit well at all last year, 77 WRC plus. That's really bad. Do I have... No. Okay. I wasn't sure if I had the projected starters. On a command, I did not. I'll add that. And again, Bradley with the win, Fairbanks with the save. I love Fairbanks. I always root for him. He's one of the best interviews out there. Dealt with, a ton of injuries. Really, really, really hope that he can stay healthy. It's been a major challenge. So we'll see if this is the year. Because he can be an absolute stud. They paid him. They committed to him. Getting a 3-year deal as a reliever out of the Rays, that's a huge, huge, huge deal. So last year, this deal, 3.7 mil. The talent is obvious. The health, not so much. So we'll see. All right, let's keep going. Oh, this crazy series. The Marlins win their 3rd straight walk-off. Or not 3rd straight, excuse me. 3 of the 4. They took 3 of 4, and all 3 of their wins were via the walk-off. And all 4 games were close 1-run games. These 2 teams, couple of roof offenses, man. Very offensive offenses. Heaney and Meyer, 2 legit pitchers, though. And obviously, going up against these 2 offenses, they had no trouble carving both of them up. Although, maybe I shouldn't use the phrase carving them up for Heaney. He pitched well, but only 2 punches against the Marlins? Bro, come on. 5 innings of 1-run ball, 4 hits, a walk, 2 strikeouts. Did we get any more swinging strikes? Or was it just... was it just unimpressive all around? 5 swinging strikes. So yeah, he really wasn't dealing. But the stream worked. As soon as he signed with Pittsburgh, and I saw the schedule for the Marlins, I was like, you know what? He's a great last round pick, or one of your last 3 or 4 picks, just for the Marlins start. And that worked. That worked. I mean, you didn't get a win. I can't make the Pittsburgh offense not suck, but you got 5 innings of 1-run ball. That works. Now from there, he gets New York at home this weekend, the Yankees. So that's a no-go, and then a trip to Cincy. So it's a cut. It's a cut from here. We'll probably revisit Heaney down the line, because if he pitches well, I like him in that ballpark, and he's a solid pitcher. But we'll see. Meanwhile, Max Meyer, 5 2/3, 2 runs, only 1 of them earned, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. He had 10 swinging strikes, 20 called strikes in his 93 pitches. Meyer obviously has a lot of hype coming into this year. First full year back from TJ. How far are they going to push him? Who knows? He got 57 innings last year, mixed results. One of those things where, if you watch some of his games, you can definitely see the stuff working, but the results weren't excellent. He'll probably be on some sort of innings limit, but can't find a Holderman. Yeah, Colin Holderman, who I actually took as a spec behind Bednar, was almost worse. The 2 of them just absolutely brutal. Dennis Santana's probably your go-to right now, assuming you even want a piece of that Pittsburgh bullpen. Bednar looks absolutely cooked, y'all. It's so rough. It's just got to be a tough go for him mentally at this point too. 3 outings, runs in all of them. This was an unearned run, although I think that was nice because his wild pitch is why it scored. Now, maybe it became unearned based on the advancement from the Endy throw, but I think once you wild pitch a run in, it should revert back to being earned, because give me a break. Give me a break. Doesn't matter, though. Bottom line is just 3 nightmare outings for Bednar. Yeah, it might be the classic change of scenery that can maybe regenerate him, but it feels cursed right now in Pittsburgh. And again, you don't want Holderman. I think if you're going to dip into this bullpen, it's Dennis Santana. Ferguson, he's a lefty, though, so I don't know. It's not great, Bob. It's just... It's pretty ugly great, out Bob. There. Did that play?
Not great, Bob.
Did that sounder play? Couple hits for Eric Wagaman, actual player. Who knew? He was the only 2-hit guy. 2 runs for Derek Hill, former big-time Tigers prospect. Great defender. A legit... Wow, he was DHing. That's crazy. Is Javier Sanoa that much better of a defender that Derek Hill's freaking DHing? Oh, welcome back. Look at this idiot. Quiet. I got to get up on my ottoman. Look at this dweeb. Are you a good puppy? When you have 0 DHs, everyone's a DH. Fair enough. Fair enough. Maybe they just want to get him off his legs. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe Oliver Perez still has some gas. Yeah, close it for them. It really depends on league. You always need league context, Tampa. Like worth a roster spot in what type of league, who's being cut, right? They're a lot more information. He was a hot ticket in 15-team leagues yesterday in the main event. He was going for some crazy prices. I tried to get him, and oh man, I'm so mad too. My buddy Greg told me what he was bidding. He's like, I'm doing $123 out of 1,000, and I had 107 bid in my league, and I was like, okay, I'm close enough to him. I'm going to leave it. You know, that's competitive enough. And in my league, he went for 122. So if I had copied my buddy Greg's bid, I would have perfectly gotten him. I saw that, PJ. But yeah. You know, I don't know if it's going to be a Kirby Yates situation where they anoint an old guy and he takes the job instantly and just runs with it. Again, we did see that last year. I need saves. I hate being in the rat race. I only have one guy with Helsley. I need a second. So I was trying to be kind of aggressive on Jackson. And I lost out 122 to 107. So annoying. So annoying. It was not a Team 2 bid, no. So yeah, I mean, he's popular. I would probably take Jackson over Bednar right now because, yeah, I got no hope for Bednar right now. Kutch goes yard off Meyer. Griffin Conine. This was really cool. Jeff Conine was being inducted into the Marlins Hall of Fame, and Griffin Conine went yard. What a cool moment. Baseball is the best. Love stuff like that. Giants win 6-3 in Cincinnati to take the series 2-1. Robbie Ray was absolutely dealing. In fact, both guys were absolutely dealing, and I could watch baseball for another 50 years. God willing. That'd make me really old. I never cease to be amazed at how quickly a game can turn for a pitcher. No matter how many times I see it, it still just stuns me how a guy can be so dialed in, looking like, oh my God, he's going to throw a no-no today, or, at least challenge it. And then, boom, fatigue starts to set in, and it just flips on a dime. And that happened to both Martinez and Ray. They were both dialed in, and they still ended up with decent enough starts. Fantasy managers that have either of them, not upset about where you're at. But, through 4 innings, they were both dropping shut pieces. Martinez gave up the 1 in the 5th, but then things unraveled for both in the 6th. And it is that key 6th inning. Start to see him that third time. And that's when the trouble can start to creep in. So Ray ends up only going 5 1/3 on 78 pitches, 3 hits, 3 runs, a walk, 4 punchies, 2 homers, including one to Austin Wynns, real player, who knew? And Matt McClain got his second of the year. Homers, that's always the issue with Robbie Ray. And a couple homers to 2 righties. So maybe the Scooble changeup isn't quite working yet. Nick Martinez, for his part, 6 innings, 4 runs, 4 hits, a walk, 5 punchies. He gave up 2 homers as well. Matt Chapman and Elliot Ramos got to him. Couple hits for Ramos and Jung-Hoo Lee. Couple runs for Lee, and then 2 ribbies apiece for Chapman and Ramos. They did the big damage. Yeah, Rum, it's crazy. I mean, it can just turn on a dime. And I get it, they basically have a stamina meter that is running down as they're pitching. It's just, you just watch a guy deal through 4 or 5 innings, you're like, oh my God, he's untouchable today. And in those small margins, things just start to get a little bit worse, and all of a sudden, boom, hit. I think Ryan Walker was unavailable, so Camilo Duvall got the save. Can we just talk about the opening day situation real quick, though? What the hell was Terry Francona doing with Ian Jabot being the guy? What was that? Barlow was who people thought was going to get that job. He was kind of the heavy spec. Santillan was probably second, and then Pagan, and they get used in the 6th, 8th, and 7th, respectively. They were great. They all three threw perfect innings with 2 punchies. They were absolutely brilliant. But then it left you turning to Ian Jabot in the 9th, and things went absolutely haywire. 3-run shot by Wilmer Flores, and all of a sudden they lost that game. They won the middle game, and then they lost again on Sunday. So, 1 up, 2 down for the Reds. I just didn't quite understand that from Francona there. And then you see Jabot yesterday in the 7th, gets back on track. That's not a bullpen I necessarily want to be in, though, either, from a fantasy perspective, I'll tell you that. Austin Wynns had a couple ribbies. It was a 2-run shot. I mentioned McClain's second of the year. A lot of big expectations for Matt McClain this year, which I am in on. I agree with those expectations. The AL version of Marlins Pirates over here. Angels White Sox. The Angels get a 3-2 victory to take the series. They got beat up a bit on opening day, 8-1. By the way, how gross was it that on opening day we were already seeing a position player pitch with Nicky Lopez? So disgusting. And Jake Bauers, I know we already mentioned him. He pitched twice in the Yankees series, but God, so gross. So gross. Because every game was an exciting walk-off. Walk-offs aren't inherently exciting. I know you're a Marlins fan, so you were excited by it. Those were still pretty boring games. Sorry, it's just the truth. Jack Kohanowitz, sneaky 5th starter, takes the job from my boy Reed Detmers and acquits himself well. 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. It was against the White Sox, but hey, you got to battle who's in front of you. And Jack Kohanowitz is definitely not at a level where it's just like, I'm not going to take credit from him because it was a more difficult, or because it was an easier matchup. He gets credit for any great start. Kenley Jansen gets his 2nd save. Obviously, he's the dude there. And he's just going to pile up saves. If he stays healthy, I think he'll be, even if he gets traded, which I know some people were nervous about drafting him in fantasy because he's going to get traded. It's like, that's July Paul's problem. I don't care about that. I'm not going to not take a closer because he might get traded in July. Who gives a shit? Davis Martin only gave up 2 unearned runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. So not a lot of dominance for these two. Kohanowitz did have 9 swinging strikes on 65 pitches, though. That's not bad. 14% swinging strike rate. That's the thing, too. That was the tack-on comment that I would make, PJ, to the people that... And by the way, I want to be clear. It wasn't like overly prevalent that people weren't drafting Jansen because he would get traded. But that was a pushback. It was like, well, he's going to get traded. I think he'll still close. Totally agree that he's still going to close. Same with Helsley. Now, that one was being talked about a ton. Helsley's going to get traded. Helsley's going to get traded. Yeah, wherever he gets traded, he's almost certainly going to still close. So it didn't bother me with either Jansen or Helsley that they might get traded. I don't care. I'll deal with it. I'll absolutely deal with it. Nick Maton went yard in the losing effort. Nick Maton, what is it with these Nicks? Nick Maton, Nick Martini, Nick M. If you're a Nick M, you're taking... Okay, pardon me, Nick Maton's only 28 years old. He's on the right side of 30. Do I think he's going to have like some sort of breakout with the White Sox? No, but it's not as egregious. I was going to make a case that it was just as egregious. No, but Nick Martini's 35. So, sorry, Nick Maton, you're totally fine. Play on. A couple hits for Luis Robert Jr. and Matt Thaiss. Maton hit his first homer. Robert Jr. got his first steal. Kyron Paris. Solo shot late in the game there. I think it was after a rain delay, so it looked like there was like 4 people. Yeah, Nick Martini's in the league. Okay, swing starting for the Rockies. We were kind of railing on that a little bit earlier. And again, less about Nick Martini. I feel bad because I'm kind of, going at him. I don't blame him. He's not supposed to go in the front office and say, I don't deserve the spot. Play as long as they're paying you to play. I just don't understand why the Rockies are doing it. That's what I just don't get. Yes, Red Rhino, I do have interest in Vargas. He actually got cut in my main event. I tried to get him back, but somebody went pretty high on him. He's not having a great start, but I don't care. It's 3 games. I couldn't care less about 3 games. But he's playing every day. Third base and outfield eligibility. I still believe in Miguel Vargas. He gets at least one more full year here of me believing in him. He's been a guy I've liked ever since his prospect days. He's only 25. This will be his first full year as a, everyday starter. We got to see something, but I'm still excited. Yeah, Nick Martini been grinding it out. And this is 2 years in a row that he finagled himself an opening day gig. Remember, all the injuries in Cincinnati last year opened the door for him. And I want to say he hit 2 homers on opening day. I think he had a 2-homer game early in the season, if not opening day for Martini last year. Look at the old brain coming through with the Nick Martini 2-homer day. So again, good for him, bad for the Rockies. Let's just be honest. Bad for the Rockies. Give that spot to somebody else. What up, Mark? How you doing? Got to listen to my boy Tom Hamilton. Baseball back on the radio. Oh, it's the best. It's the best. Guards win 6-2, take the series in Kansas City. Another good divisional matchup here. They take the bookends. The Royals got the middle game. Tanner Bybee had to start Sunday here because of some food poisoning for opening day. Some hilarious stuff with Bybee. So, one of these things that's popped up in interviews before is that he eats Chipotle before every start. And so when he got scratched due to food poisoning, everyone's like, oh no, his Chipotle went south on him. And he made a point to come on and say, no, I was sick way before the Chipotle would have even happened. Do not blame my beloved Chipotle. So no, it was not his pre-start Chipotle that did him in. He was sick before that, gets moved to the Sunday start, and ends up still dealing. 5 2/3, scoreless, 2 hits, 2 walks. Only 2 punchies, but obviously if you're getting these quick outs and kind of keeping things efficient, we'll live with it. I think his strikeouts are going to be fine. This just happened to be a low strikeout outing for Bybee. My boy Cantillo struggles. God, I really want to love him. Fletch, I'm going to post them on YouTube because I know they're not going to be very West Coast friendly, but they have to be early. They just have to. Maybe the Saturday one can be a bit later, but we're going to be doing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and the Monday and Wednesday ones just have to be early. That's so funny, Pat. Someone called which Chipotle in case he got him. He's like, no, leave my beloved Chipotle alone. He's gunning for that sponsorship. Thanks so much, Quinn. I appreciate that. Take care. Waka was all right. The 4 walks, not great. He only ended up giving up 1 run, but 8 base runners is pretty rough. He was actually fortunate to not get clobbered there. 4 hits, 4 walks in 4 innings, 2 strikeouts, Uncharacteristic control issues for Waka. That's not something that you normally expect out of him. But it happens. Yeah, walks are usually his strength. Let's see how many times he walked 4 last year, if at all. Twice. Against the Angels and the Tigers. That's kind of surprising too. Those are 2 teams that weren't very good offensively last year. Even when the Tigers made the surge, our offense was not amazing. It was just super timely. So yeah, sometimes you just have an off day with the control. Nothing to worry about there. India did get caught stealing and left the game. I think on a hit by pitch, no? Yeah, Clase hit him and he left, so we'll keep tabs on that. He's off to a solid start with a 429 BABIP. I mean, OBP is what I meant to say, not BABIP. He's in the concussion protocol, yeah, because he got hit in the head. So that sucks. Hopefully he's all right. Gabriel Arias, Daniel Schneemann, and Kyle Manzardo went yard. Look at Arias and Schneemann going yard in a non-hitter's park. Those are not 2 power guys. Oh my God. Okay, Swing, that seems terrifying to get domed by Clase. I mean, I wouldn't want to get domed by, Kyle Hendricks, obviously, but let alone somebody like Clase who brings it the way he does. Terribly scary. 3 hits for Kwan. God, how good is he? How good is Kwan? Mark, I saw you saying he can hit a bit. I mean, he's just so good. 2 hits for Arias and Manzardo. Couple runs for Schneemann. Couple ribbies for Arias and Manzardo as well. That was Manzardo's second, and it was off a lefty. Sammy Long is a lefty, so lefty homer there. We love to see that. I'm very big on Manzardo this year. I will say, he is util only, which does make him a little bit of a tougher fit for fantasy, but I didn't care. I drafted him anywhere I could. I believe in the bat. They're committing to him as a top of the order guy. Off to a great start. He wasn't amazing in his regular season sample last year, but it wasn't terrible either. It was fine. It was like, okay, you saw some good, you saw some bad, but then in the playoffs, I thought he looked better. Takes good at bats, comes from the Tampa Bay organization. I don't know. I'm just big on Manzo. He might not get eligibility anywhere in season though. He DH'd all 3 games here. I don't know that he's necessarily even going to get you first base eligibility. Santana's coming off a Gold Glove season, which is crazy to say considering he's 39 years old, but that's just how amazing Santana is. But maybe they'll want to get, 39-year-olds some days off and they can swap him a little bit here and there. Yeah, in fact, I think both of Manzo's homers might be off a lefty, Mark. I want to say that the first one might be too. Let me check that. Oh, actually, no, I don't think Zerpa's a lefty, is he? Oh, he is. There you go. Both homers off lefties. So Manzo's saying, play me every day, baby. I can hit lefties. Oh, I did not see that airborne virus. Colton Cowser does go to the IL with a fractured thumb. I knew it was bad. They said it got bent like all the way back. Red Rhino, I don't blame you. That was the tough part. If you had one of the other DH only guys, like obviously Ohtani being the best of them, but Ozuna, Rooker, I guess, is there anybody else besides those? But it was difficult to take Manzo at that point. I totally don't blame anybody that has those guys. But otherwise, he was a must get. All right, what's next? A few more games here. Oh, this one had a rain delay as well. Does this mention rain delays? Does the MLB one? I feel like one of these box scores, it might be actually Baseball Reference box scores that mention rain delays in him. Kerstead Mania. Yeah, I would assume that he's going to get the playing time. Okay, yeah. So you guys know I still don't like the MLB box score because it doesn't show swinging strikes. That is pretty much the only reason I still use ESPN's. I know I get asked every year, why do you use ESPN box scores? Honestly, because they show the swinging strikes right down here. I don't know why the other websites don't. If MLB did, we would use MLB. Because they have more cool stuff over here. Like we can just look at more replays. They have the weather down here, including delays. They have how long the game took. They've got more info otherwise, but they don't put the swinging strikes. If they just put the swinging strikes down here with the pitches and strikes, we would just use MLB. But you know what? We can have both up. We can just have both up. That's fine. But yeah, there was an hour delay here. Game was only 2:20 though. Wow. Which is kind of crazy considering how bad Ober got smoked, but I guess he got smoked efficiently. Because the game was still only 2:20 outside of the delay. Another dud opener for Bailey Ober. Believe it or not, he was actually worse in his season debut last year against the Royals. I think they dropped a 9-burg on him. Oh no, it was same 8, but it was only in 1 1/3. Smoked efficiently, Nestor Cortez. Yeah, he got smoked efficiently too. 3 pitches, 3 bombs, and the hits just kept coming. So apparently Bailey Ober was very sick, had to get an IV. I guess he ate with Tanner Bybee. So maybe he shouldn't have been pitching. I don't know. It's one of those. I'm not going to freak out. He's going to get cut in some leagues, and it's the wrong move. I'm sorry. I would pick him up instantly the same way I was last year when he got cut. People are going to cut Bailey Ober. Pick him up immediately. Immediately. It sucks to eat another dud. It absolutely sucks. But I'm not quitting him. By the way, big shouts to Randy Dobnik and Steven Matz for their extendo outings, especially Dobnik. Going 5 1/3 to save the bullpen after the starter goes 2 2/3, that's huge. Matz didn't really have to save the bullpen, but just to go 4 after Palante goes 5, that's really nice. Both relievers really dialed in there. But Dobnik is the hero. You know he was getting a lot of love. Yeah, he got optioned right after, which is pretty brutal. But they probably dapped him up, said, "Man, huge effort." Did he get sent out or DFA'd? That is a key distinction, because if he got cut, that would be really rough. Does he have options? Okay, he still has options, so he only got sent out. I'd be surprised if he got DFA'd, because that would kick you off the roster, but he probably just got sent back down. That is pretty tough, though. You literally save the bullpen. You're the superhero of the day in what was otherwise a pretty rotten outing. And then they're like, okay, go back to Rochester. Nah. Gee whiz, thanks for nothing. 2 hits for Willie Castro, including a homer and a double. He was the bulk of the offense there. Byron Buxton also drove in a run. Not much going for the Twins there. They go 0-3 here. It was a rough start. Rough start to the weekend for them. Yeah, I tell you, we'll see. We'll see. But the Cardinals are a team I refuse to bury. Now, it burned me last year because I didn't bury them last year and they weren't very good. And I know they didn't do anything, quite literally did nothing this offseason. Part of me understands it, though, because they have a good bit of talent. I still think they should have gotten a guy or two to, like, fortify a couple things. I would have wanted a better, another pitcher for the rotation, perhaps. But they're not that bad. And as Bud brings up, the Central is just not good enough to bury them. It's that simple. Cardinals Devil Magic lives. Like, this is a very competent lineup, especially if Victor Scott's going to break out. Now, I don't know if he's going to, but the power that he showed in spring and a home run already, that's huge. Because this guy, we already know, can play platinum glove caliber center field defense and has top of the scale speed. So if he has any bat, he is an all-star. Like, it's that simple. I think Arenado's going to be back this year. And then a bunch of the other guys were already pretty good last year. It really wasn't the hitting. It was the pitching. That's why I would have gotten another pitcher somewhere. So I do blame them for sitting on their hands pitching-wise. But nobody in the Central went out and did a bunch of stuff outside of the Cubs. And that's true. They do have McGreevy and Matthews coming up later, but you can never have too much pitching, Jay Will. So I still would have gotten somebody. I still hold out hope for Matthew Liberatore too. So maybe they don't need anybody. Maybe Liberatore steps up, Quinn Matthews and Michael McGreevy come up in season, and maybe that's where they're getting their pitching from. I will say, not a whole lot to get excited about from the spring from Liberatore as far as the core skills. Still pretty pedestrian. But we'll see. We'll see. I think he gets a pretty friendly couple of starts coming up, right? Oh, yeah. He gets the Angels and then a trip to Pittsburgh. That's not bad. He does have to get Philly. So if you use him for the 2 start next week, we can wait to see how tomorrow goes. You don't have to make a decision now. But if he looks sharp against the Angels, I might take a shot in a deeper league at Pittsburgh, home to Philly. You know, Philly didn't have a great weekend. I still respect and fear them as an offense. But we'll see. Gorman, Pages, and Scott go yard again. I mentioned Scott. He's been on fire. 3-run shot off of Ober. So he drives in 3 runs. Pedro Pages, 3 hits, including his homer. Also a 3-run shot off of Ober. Nolan Gorman, 3 hits, 3 runs in his first homer of the year. Ooh, Scott also had the steal, his 3rd of the year, a combo meal. Shouts to the old ESPN Fantasy Podcast. That's just a homer and a steal in the same day. Palante was solid. 5 innings, 2 runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 3 Ks. But even though he only had 3 Ks, he had 13 swinging strikes. So, you know, he was missing some bats. I don't know. I didn't watch the game, so I didn't see like the sequencing. Was he getting like early count swings and misses? Because 13 swinging strikes in 78 pitches is good. And that is kind of the thing with him, is like, he's a ground ball artist, you know, keep the ball down, get out of counts or get out of at-bats in early counts. But I love seeing a 17% swinging strike rate. Obviously, you cannot live with a 14% K rate all year. Could he push into the 20s? Like, nobody's going to project him to be like 25% or anything like that. But could he be 19 to 21%? With this ground ball capability, that'd be enough to be pretty good. I mean, he was pretty good last year with a 19% rate. Put up a 378, 130. Now, Palante is going to be one of those classic better real-life pitchers than fantasy because of the lack of strikeouts. So we'll see. And of course, Matz gets the save for the 4-inning outing. Non-traditional save. No reason to like pick him up or anything crazy like that. Texas gets the 3-1 series win over the Red Sox with a 3-2 win here. They lose the first, and then they take the next 3. Jacob deGrom was Jacob deGrom. 5 scoreless on 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 16 swinging strikes in his 73 pitches. Doesn't get the win, though. Thanks for nothing, Texas offense. Sean Armstrong, you blew it and then stole the win. You thief. That guy sounds like he's good. Yeah, it all comes down to the health with deGrom, right? It's not about the talent. That is unquestioned. And that's why some of us, we're back in from a fantasy perspective. He was expensive at the fantasy table, but, I'll take my chances. For me, when it comes down to fantasy, if the skills are already there and I'm just trying to bet on health, I'm really open to taking risks. I understand that his health track record recently has been bad. And so if he gets hurt, people will be like, well, you got no one to blame but yourself. And I say, okay, I do understand that. Yes, I know there's a risk with a 37-year-old DeGrom. But give me talented guys. That's why I take guys like Royce Lewis, Mike Trout, I will take the risks on guys whose talent is undeniable. Scherzer as well. I think Scherzer's risk was more built into the price point. Like, he wasn't terribly expensive. With DeGrom, like, you were paying a premium. And so I get it. But I just couldn't get away from him because he's just so damn good. Richard fits into this rotation. Gives you a baseline quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs on 6 hits, no walks, 4 Ks, couple homers. So there were positives and negatives here. I watched a decent bit of this game. And Fitz made some noise in spring. That was enough to get him into the rotation. I don't know if he would have gotten the spot if Giolito hadn't tweaked his hammy. Actually, there probably still would have been this Sean Newcomb spot. So maybe he was going to get in regardless. But he showed some things in spring. Ks weren't bad. The walks were up a little bit, but solid swinging strike rate. You didn't really see anything last year in the 20 innings, but it was 20 innings too. So it's like, well, how much are you really going to put into that? His minor league numbers were much more indicative of what I think it can be. Is Scherzer, DeGrom, Sagano, Kirby too much risk for one team? It's a bit. Boston needs to acquire Bubic so that they can have Dick Fitz and Tit Scratch on the same team? Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say this is a solid venture into Texas. Having Fitz go into Texas and survive, you got to feel pretty good about that. It is Jackson Jobe night in America, baby. He gets the night game in Seattle. You better believe I'm going to try to catch an afternoon nap so that I don't miss a pitch. Or just drink more Red Bull, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Yo, they were going crazy on Higashioka. Does he do like the catch on a knee thing to help his framing or something? Why were they running so crazily on him? Bregman, Wong, Rafaela, Abreu. I got to be honest, I wasn't paying as much attention to that running game there. I was really dialed in on both starters, but I didn't even realize that they got 4 swipes on him. They were running all series. So Boston was taking advantage. No, only 2 of them were on DeGrom. And then 1 on Armstrong and 1 on Martin. So, curious if Higashioka was doing something or just the pitchers in general. Maybe they're not holding runners. But yeah, it looks like Boston was running wild. Not a lot of offense there. Look at Willie Abreu. They didn't want that smoke after the first game when he ripped 2 homers. He goes 1 for 1 with a runner ribby and 3 walks. Man, I got to be honest. I got spooked on Abreu because he was apparently super sick as well in spring, and I wasn't diving in for him. This was a guy I really liked last year, but apparently he had this illness that was looking bad, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just, if he drops, maybe I'll get him, but I didn't end up getting him anywhere, and he was playing possum on him. He was pretending to be sick, and then the season started. He said, oh, psych, I'm not sick. I'm amazing. Brewers, take notice on how to pitch around a guy who's been mass murdering baseballs. Right. Adolis goes yard for his second of the year. Langford gets his first. Couple hits for Langford. He was the only 2-hit guy. 3-2, so not a lot of offense there outside of the steals for Boston and a couple homers for Texas. I mentioned it earlier. Jackson got a second save. He was the big fantasy ticket. Everyone was going crazy on him in the main event. So we go into the main event here. We go into the ads. Maybe. Why isn't this working? Well, maybe we don't. It was working last night, so. Okay, well, maybe not. He genuinely looked horrible, like very, very bad pitcher. I mean, I was tuned out of this game by the time Jackson came in. I think he had to have had more than one whiff with a 13% swinging strike rate. But yeah, he gave a bunch of hits. He's given up at least a homer. I mean, his numbers aren't good, but he has 2 saves, and Texas anointed a guy early on last year who was, older, kind of crusty pitcher, and he went on to have a huge season. Now, I will say the difference between Kirby Yates and Luke Jackson is that Kirby Yates looked good. Like when Kirby Yates was popping off at the beginning of last year, I don't think he pitched poorly like that. Yeah, he was just good. And he actually even took a little while to get going with the save. So we were a little bit into the season already. So maybe I'll be glad that I got snaked on Jackson. I still think Chris Martin's the better pitcher. Garcia's pretty good too, but he's a lefty. And do they have any other lefties in the bullpen? Because that's the bias against lefties. Not that lefties can't do it. It's just that if you don't have more in the bullpen, they do have Milner, hook 'em horns. So they do have a second lefty they can turn to. So yeah, we'll see. I was bummed though, just because I could have had the perfect bid on him, 123 to 122, if I had just matched my buddy. But I had 107, and I was like, that's fine. I'll go 100, just over $100. Because you don't get the 2 saves, right? So it's like, that's the tough part too. I don't want to chase too much of something that's happened. So yeah, I hope you guys are right that he's not that good, and I don't feel bad about missing out. Arizona wins 10-6. This was a crazy game. I kind of jumped in after like a run or two into this inning. They go down 6-2 in the 8th. Like, oh, well, there goes that. 8-run 8th inning. Just absolutely went berserk. Eli Morgan took the brunt of it, giving up 6 runs in 2/3. Rough one for Cubs fans. Amazing one for D-backs fans. So they storm back to get the split. 2-2. Matthew Boyd pitched brilliantly, 5 scoreless, 7 base runners scattered with 5 strikeouts, 11 swinging strikes on 92 pitches. Eduardo wasn't bad, 5 1/3, 3 runs on 3 hits, 3 walks, 5 Ks, 2 homers. 3 walks and 2 homers, not great, but he survived against a quality team. I like Erod to bounce back this year. So if you started him here, you're not too upset about that. What's he got coming up this week? He gets a trip to Washington. I respect the Washington lineup. They're one of my favorite sneaky lineups this year, but they're not one that I'm running from, I should say. So I would stick with Erod this week. Milwaukee next. Again, he's what I call a team streamer, which is just a streamer that you don't cut. Usually with a streamer, you use them and then you cut them back into the waiver wire. Team streamer, you just hang on to a little bit longer. and just kind of see where they're at, see if they can play themselves into more of a consistent starter. That's where I'm at with Erod. Fletch, thank you so much for the resub. Appreciate you on that 9 months. Because I really like this Arizona team. In fact, they're my World Series winner. And so even if Erod's just kind of like a baseline quality start machine, 6 innings, 3 runs consistently, I think he can pile up a ton of wins. Martinez got the win. Damn, I didn't realize Pearson got smoked too. Pearson, Theobar, and Morgan, they all pitched poorly. It was a rough bullpen day for the Cubbies. Tucker hit his second of the year. Suzuki and Swanson both got their first. Deuce is wild for our boy, Seiya Suzuki. 2 runs, 2 hits, 2 ribs. 3 driven in for Tucker. It was indeed a 3-run homer. And a couple hits for Swanson in the loss. Plenty of offense for the D-backs. 2 hits for Perdomo, Gurriel, Moreno, who came in for half the game and still went 2 for 2 with a run and a ribby. 2 hits for Naylor as well, and a deuce is wild for Alek Thomas. 2 runs, 2 hits, and 2 driven in. Gurriel was the only homer. 2-run shot for him during that barrage of 8 runs in the 8th. 2 ribbies for Perdomo, Gurriel, and Thomas. And 2 runs scored for Josh Naylor and Thomas. I love how Carroll and Moreno came in for half days and both popped off. One of the coolest moments was Ryan Nelson. Yes, the very same, the pitcher who came in to pinch hit and ripped a base hit. There's a game opening that had quad 4s, 4 for 4 with 4 runs, 4 ribs. That's huge. Was that Judge? I bet Ben Brown ends up back in the pen after this 2-step if he struggles. I mean, if he struggles, yes, but I think there's a world where he takes the starter spot and runs with it. I will say, Ben Brown making the rotation kind of snuck up on me. I didn't know that they were considering him that hard. I thought Colin Ray was just going to kind of get the job so that they could keep Ben Brown as like a stopper. But I do think that letting him start is good. Yeah, it was Ryan Nelson's first career plate appearance, and he went and got himself a base knock with the run driven in and then eventually scored. He ripped it. Hey, if you're a pitcher coming off the bench and you get a base hit out of nowhere in the box score, baby, you ripped it. I don't see any exit velos here. It's 110 as far as we're concerned. So big ups to Ryan Nelson. But yeah, D-backs looks like this D-backs offense is ready to go again. Don't forget, they led the league in runs last year. I don't know, Jameson. Usually I go to RotoWire for lineups. And this is just the expected lineup, so nothing yet. Only the ones with the green at the top should be taken as locked. But that's an afternoon game, so we'll get word relatively soon. And finally, the Sunday night game. San Diego put on a clinic this whole weekend. They go 4-0 against the Braves. Nick Pivetta was brilliant. 7 innings, a 1-hit ball, no walks, 4 strikeouts. What up, Dreams? How you doing? AJ Smith-Shawver wasn't bad. 4 innings, 2 runs, 9 base runners, a little bit high, sure. But 4 Ks, not a bad trip to San Diego. Like, that's a good team, young pitcher. I feel like, hey, if you started him here, you're not feeling too bad about it. It was a risky start. Probably a lot of people skipped it, just put him on their bench. He gets Miami and then a trip to Tampa Bay. I like both of those for Smith-Shawver, especially Miami, of course. Sorry, PJ, you know it's true. Jose Suarez, picked him up from the Angels. He pitches very well for them. Yeah, Jeremiah Estrada strikes out the side. No surprise there. And they were running wild too. Tatis gets his third steal. Bogart's his second. Gavin Sheets gets his first steal. And Brandon Lockridge gets one as well. Man, Tatis. God. My first main, I was targeting Lindor with a backup of Tatis. And I had the 13th pick. Lindor goes 11th. Tatis goes 12th. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think Tatis is going to have an MVP caliber season. And so far, so good. Yesterday it was on Trump, I think. Yeah, Trump was catching yesterday. Were they running? I know Tatis was running all weekend. Was the team running all weekend? Baldwin had a caught stealing on Saturday and no steals on Friday. Nothing. And then opening day, I know Tatis at least got the one. Or, I mean, actually two. Machado and Tatis, two apiece. And all four of those were on Baldwin. So Baldwin and Trump each had a rough game mixed in there. So, a lot will be made of the Braves going 0-4. Because I know you got to fill airtime during, even during the beginning of the season. But come on. We can't get too hung up on that. I'll be right back, y'all. I need to use the restroom real quick, but we'll dive into the standings and we'll keep going. All right, I'm back. So looking into the standings will be a regular feature here because we're going to be doing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. So there'll be a few days each time. Of course, early season, we're not going to find too much. So we're not going to deep dive the standings super early in the season because it's just, like I said earlier, people are going to make a whole lot of the Braves going 0-4. I'm not going to get too hung up on it. They had a rough series in San Diego against a high-quality team. Big deal. The Yankees starting off 3-0, that's got to feel good given all the injuries that they suffered during spring to their pitching. The offense comes out and says, hey, get on our back, pitching staff. We'll take care of you. Boston, very trendy pick to do well this year. They go 1-3, but it was in Texas against another big competitor. So what are you going to do? Freak out over that? I don't think so. Bummer that my Tigers go 0-3, but they were out in LA. They played competitively. You don't want to get too hung up on the whole moral victory where they hung in the game or whatever. You got to win games. But by the same token, I do take a little from that. It is nice that they were at least competitive against the Dodgers. They had opportunities to win. The Dodgers are freaking inevitable. Freaking Mookie. I respect you, Mookie, even though you're a jerk. Torque was amazing. Guardians are leading the division at 2-1 over the Royals there. Twins going 0-3 again. Are you going to get super hung up on it? They were on the road. I know they had the collapse to end last year, so that's maybe carrying over some bad feeling because of how badly things went to end last year. But I'm still not going to get too hung up on that. How many games until you start caring about win or loss? I think we need at least a few weeks going. Need at least a few weeks going. Now, there'll be some, like, I forget exactly what the cutoff was, because there was a point last year for Houston specifically that they were at such a bad start that when you were comparing it to historical numbers, it was like, okay, no team or only one team has ever been 19-25 and made the world, like whatever the number was. But they had gotten to a point that was pretty bad. And I understand looking at the historical stuff. They obviously turned it around though. So yeah, I need a month before I'm really going to start caring at all. And even then, I'm not going to bury a team or anoint a team. But a month before the standings really start to have some merit. You don't want to put yourself in a bad spot, and banking early wins can be very valuable. So I'm not saying there's no value to this. But this first look, there's certainly nothing in here that I'm gonna get too hung up on. Marlins, way to be 3-1. You need every banked win you can get, because that's not a good team. Mets, another team, they go on the road to Houston versus another contender. You're not going to get too hung up about being 1-2. Cardinals 3-0. We've talked about that a few times already. They look good. They look good there. That's nice. Any banked wins you can get in that Central, because I just don't think that that's going to be very difficult to win that division. So them getting 3 wins banked over Milwaukee, there's a little tick of something to that. Just because I think that is such a winnable division. But again, am I going to anoint St. Louis and bury Milwaukee? Absolutely not. No chance. Dodgers go 5-0. They're inevitable, as I said. Padres 4-0. Giants 2-1. D-backs 2-2. Pace Eaters 1-2. All right, let's take a look at PT Live. So if you play out of the park, as a lot of folks in here do, we got a little game in there called PT Live. So basically, the live series cards that you have, you put in the lineup to get real points based on their, or to get points based on their real performance. So it's like a little DFS type game. Actually, I don't think we're supposed to say that's not DFS, but it kind of is. Show the rules here. So you have certain levels that you can pick. You can pick a maximum of 2 perfects, 3 diamonds, 4 golds, and then the rest of your roster can be all silver, bronze, iron, however many of those that you want. And then lower cards can substitute. So I don't have that many perfects. In fact, I only have 1 Garrett Crochet. So I can't even get to 2 perfects, but you can do more diamonds to fill in your perfects. So I could do upwards of 5 diamonds because it's 2 perfects and 3 diamonds. So I can get 5 diamonds to fill in there. So here's what I'm going with today. Today's a big day for the big sneaky move. A must to succeed in PT Live is to get those reliever starts. So you click this only projected SP. Now this button will not always be perfect. So you are better off making sure that you're cross-checking on a site like the Probable Pitchers from RotoWire, because as somebody mentioned in chat earlier, Michael Soroka, he goes by Michael now. He's starting today, and he's a reliever, but he didn't get the green. Go ahead there. I'm not entirely sure why, but he's starting today, so you could put him in there. But I'm going Tit Scratch and Rasmussen, easy peasy. You can play this game on mobile once OOTP Go comes out. It's called OOTP Go. It comes out a few weeks after release. And so it's coming soon. I don't have the exact date yet, but it's being worked on. It should be out very soon. And then you'll be able to make your lineup on Go. So guess what? Guess who I had yesterday? Bailey Ober. Now, thankfully, this game doesn't do negatives. So I just took a 0. But you know what's really upsetting? Is that I had a pretty good day otherwise. So let's just say, starters give you, a good starter gives you, or like a solid starter. Let's not even say very good. Let's just say like run of the mill. If I just gotten a 20 burger, I would have had 248, which I wouldn't have led the day or anything, right? There's plenty of people over 300. Like I wouldn't have even gotten top 100. But if he'd have just had a decent day, did we have negatives last year? I wonder why they went away from it this year. I mean, I'm not mad about it. I'll say that. Oh yeah, we do have earned runs are negative too. I'm surprised you can't go below 0. Huh. I'll ask about that, Mark. I like Grant Holmes, but I'm not going against the Dodgers. Yeah. I mean, if he's the only one you got, run him. Because the relievers as starters, run them. You had -5 last night on Multiply? Okay, I'll ask. I don't know why I don't have a negative on Ober then. But yeah, whoever you guys have as SP relievers today, like if you don't have Rasmussen and Bubic and say you only have Holmes and Soroka, run them. Because a starter in relief, first off, it's guaranteed chance at points. It's not guaranteed points. They could go Bailey Ober on you, but it's a guaranteed chance at points. You have to take that shot. What up, Dubby? So I'd even go, this, by the way, this is pronounced Machinsky, believe it or not. So even if I only had Machinsky and Holmes, even though Holmes is going to the Dodgers and Machinsky has to go to Tampa Bay, which is the minor league park, I'd start both of them. You have to start the relievers as starters. From there, I'm going with Sanchez against the Rockies and Chris Paddock against the White Sox. Chris Paddock, I'm getting a little out there with this one. I do have some other guys I could have used. I have a gold rocker, but I'm not going into Cincinnati. Bowden Francis, I want to see something from him. So I don't have a lot of other top end starters to choose from today. So that's why I'm going with Paddock. I have a soft spot for Paddock. And so that might be leading me astray today. I will freely admit that. By the way, how lucky am I? I mistimed this live gold. And so when I woke up, I literally had 2 minutes before it was going to fire. And so all I was able to do was to load my silver lineup, and all I could trade was the catchers. That's why I have 2 gold catchers. Like, this is just my silver lineup with 2 gold catchers before the timer ran out. And I'm into the 4th round. How unbelievably lucky am I? I thought it was an hour later than it was. I thought I had time. But hey, it didn't even burn me. I'm getting lucky as hell. We'll see if I can keep going. So anyway, Paddock, again, I'm not telling y'all to go with me on this. This is, your mileage may vary, okay? I saw that, Mark, and we're both in the fat division. There's 2 6-team divisions, and we're both in those. Not in the same one, though. We're on each side there. Now, not to gas myself up, but at the same time to very much do that. I do a daily SP chart that can maybe help you with Perfect Team Live. If you just want to bookmark this, this is the archive. This will always, bring up the latest and greatest. Yeah, I do have long arms to pat myself on the back with. So I usually post it the night before. If not, it'll be early in the morning, but I try to get it out the night before because I know it's some like Yahoo or whatever you got to pick up the day before. But here's what I do. I rank everybody according to 10, 12, and 15 team leagues. It's basically shallow, medium, and deep leagues. Don't worry so much about the team number. Like if you play in a 14-team league, you should probably be looking at the 15-plus column. So I rank them, and I give recommendations based on whether or not I'd start them, and then I put a little commentary in. Commentary will get deeper the deeper we get into the season. Right now, I don't have a bunch to say. Like, what am I going to tell you about Glass now? He's good. Start him. Like, no shit. So I usually try to leave the commentary to the guys that are, like, more on the bubble. So I did give Paddock a full recommendation today. But again, there was still 2.0 homer 9 in spring. I like the 23% strikeout minus walk, the 14% swinging strike rate. He gets Houston on the weekend. So if you're in a fantasy league where you have to take both starts to get the White Sox start, be careful. I put him as a YOLO. Honestly, I should have ranked him a little bit closer to here. I think I like him better than Hancock and Marquez and Anderson. So I'm kind of regretting that. This is a 2-start rankings chart. But yeah, you can check out my my daily SP chart. It has uses for fantasy baseball, PT Live, DraftKings, whatever you're doing. So yeah, I'm going Sanchez, Paddock, and then on offense, we're going with Rutschman at catcher, Pete Alonso at first, Bregman at second, Nolan Arenado at third, Dansby Swanson at short, Jesse Winker in left, Pete Crow Armstrong center, Seiya Suzuki in right, Brandon Lau at DH, and Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes as the 2 utils. Now, keep in mind a lot of is based on what I have. I'm getting there on the live series collection. I'm not done, but I'm getting there. But I don't have a lot of the top tier diamonds and perfects. As I mentioned, I've only got Garrett Crochet. He's literally my only perfect. What's the weather looking like in Baltimore? Oh, I see possible rain trouble. Interesting. I hadn't thought about it, to be honest. I was just trying to go against Sean Newcomb. I think I'm going to stick with it. I have a source for that too, though. I got something for everything. You guys know who Kevin Roth is? Kevin Roth is my weather Sherpa. And of course, he doesn't have anything up yet for today. Bummer. Oh, wait, he does, just not on Twitter. Okay, so I went here, and then I just clicked on the Roto Grinders weather. And so he hasn't tweeted anything yet for today, but he does have his report up, and he does have a yellow-orange on Baltimore, Boston. Any delays here would be big, big trouble. Shit. Mark, we are locked in. Oh, W, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for Job. All right, I think I'm going to switch. That's two big pieces for my lineup. I can't risk it. Damn it. And dog, maybe I'll do like one a week. I'll see if Justin usually sets him up for our podcast. I'll see if he wants to do that. All right. Well, I think we can just... No, I'm glad you said something. I'm glad y'all said something about the weather, because I wasn't even looking at it. But I think we should take those guys out. Let's be smart. Look, I'm not a Jordan Hicks guy, okay? I'm pretty vehemently against him as a starter, and I've already got a couple Astros in, and so we're gonna ride that wave and keep going with the Astros here. Even though they're righties against a righty, I don't care. I know he started off brilliantly last year, but he completely fell apart, after the first month. And I just don't buy it. So we're going to go Diaz there. And then for second base, you know what? We're going to go with my boy Gavin Lux against Kumar. Kumar Rocker's good. He's interesting. Nick's been praising Hicks end of spring training. Nick Pollock is a very smart guy. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't buy Jordan Hicks as a starter in the slightest. So I'll be out. Honestly, I would need a lot to turn me too. Like a good first month wouldn't do it, because he did that last year. And I started to buy in. I said, okay, maybe I'm wrong, because I've not been in on him as a starter at all, like ever. And again, last year he started off brilliantly, and it was like, okay, maybe there's something coming through here, and completely fell off. I'm not falling for it again this year. So I'm willing to lose on Jordan Hicks, including with 3 Astros in our lineup today. So that's what we're going with. Again, I cannot tell you guys enough. I cannot stress enough how important the relievers as starters are. The CBS Fantasy Pod calls them SPARPs, SP as RP. You got to get your SPARPs in for PT Live. It is a must. It is free points. And so there's 5 today. There's these 4 and Soroka. Soroka isn't showing green. That's just because sometimes whatever website we pull things from doesn't always have a perfect update. I don't know why with Soroka, because he's always been penciled in for this start. So I'm a little bit surprised that he doesn't show properly. But maybe it's a Michael thing too, to be honest. I don't know. I have no idea. But he is starting today against the Blue Jays. So you can definitely use him. Rasmussen and Bubic are the 2 you should use if you have both. But I would use Grant Holmes and Carmen Machinsky if that's all I had. Again, I cannot stress this enough, how valuable those starters are. All right, y'all. Let's try a new game. We got a new game over at MLB called Spinball that I'm very excited to try out here. So basically, we're going to be spinning the wheel to draw our roster. Let's just dive right in and see what we're dealing with here. Display name Sporer. I definitely read all those rules. I did it offline. Don't even ask. You know what? We'll go through the guide. I know how to play, but we'll go through the guide here. You have 9 spins put together, your lineup of 5 players, 4 hitters, 1 pitcher. Cool. So we do get some respins there. We can peep the stats. Obviously, the stats aren't going to be super viable just yet. Star, the 10% of players projected to score the most points. Fire means they're on fire, of course. And ice means they're not doing well. Okay. Icy is not spelled with an E, right? Am I crazy there? They're playing the Blue Jays. You have 10 seconds to add them or spin again. Oh, I like that. So you're on a little bit of a timer. Timers are my kryptonite. Make sure to check out some players you missed. Okay. Peep our roster. Ooh, we can move up in league. Very cool. Challenge friends. Oh, sweet. Cool. Well, let's see what we can do here. First hitter coming. Obviously, we want Ohtani or Betts. Again, I like Grant Holmes a lot, but obviously I'm going to take the Dodgers against him if we get either of them. Let's see what we get. We got Adolis at Cincinnati. I'm going to spin again. Boom. It worked. It worked. We're going Ohtani, baby. Adolis is good in Cincinnati, but come on. We had to take another shot. All right, pitcher now. This is Spinball over at MLB. Here you go, Tarpons. Christopher Sanchez. Oh, he's our PT Live guy. We're riding. We're riding. Big Christopher Sanchez guy. All right, we got some interesting options here. Harper, Berger, Kwan are probably my favorites. Again, if it's Bregman, we're saying no because of the weather. It's Berger. Boom. We're in on Berger in Cincinnati. Hell yeah. Things are coming together nicely right now. Oh, this is, so wait, we would get 2x the points for Candelario? Oh, I want that just for the bonus. Give me that all day. So we want Candelario, Pena, or Cruz, I think. Because Duran is probably the best fantasy player here, but again, weather. We're fading the Baltimore-Boston game for weather. I like Vinny P too. Let's see who we get. Pena. I'll take Pena, actually. Well, no, I'm going to spin again to try to get Candelario. We have some extra spins. We only have one more hitter after this. We're going to go for Candy. Come on. Ah, damn it. I'm going to do one more. If we're going to take whoever we get here unless it's Duran. We'll take Vinny P. That's fine. I tried to get Candy, but I didn't want to get too crazy with it. So we got 2 spins for this one. Newt Bar. Alvarez. Alvarez is the top. Then Newt. Cruz. Soler. Benny. Honestly, Bregman's awesome, but again, we're fading that game due to weather. Who's Miami pitching today against... Cal Quantrill? Okay. I could do Cal Quantrill with Siri, but that we're going to spin. If we don't get one of the top 2 guys here, we're going to obviously do our last spin as well. Ooh, Soler's kind of good, but let's just do our last spin. Frick it. We're going for it. Come on, give me Newt. Give me Newt. Oh, no. Again, Bregman's good, but now we're up against the weather. All right, well, it was a risk. It was a risk. We knew that we were risking it. Can I create a league like of us, or do we just get placed into leagues? Like how do we, oh, I could add friends. What if I do this? Is this a thing? Here's my code, y'all. You guys can add me. Add me on here so we can go against each other and see how we're doing. Cool. That should be fun. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Again, Bregman is good. If they play, I'm not against having Bregman. The reason that we didn't want Baltimore and Boston, though, was purely weather. Purely weather. We're just running scared on the weather. And I guess we maybe should have been a little bit more scared of Sanchez. But I'm not as, like, it's yellow, whereas Baltimore-Boston got the yellow-orange. I'm going to stick with Sanchez. I'm actually nervous a little bit on that, but I'm going to stick with him. Sweet. We're playing Tarpons. But yeah, you guys can add me. I'll add anybody. Can I play more than one person? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just add anybody that adds me. And we'll play that game. That's called MLB Spinball. New game that they're trying out. I love trying out a new game. Here you go, Peach. I think it's under their, let me go to the main page here real quick. It's under play. It's under play here. Now, we won't always get to everything that's on the list because 10 is kind of my loose out here. So we're not going to play Immaculate Grid today. But we did get to PT Live and Spinball. We'll get to IG sometimes, but today is not one of those days. I do have to get going. But there we go. Boxes and Bull, episode 1 for the season in the books, y'all. I'll be back on Wednesday. So we'll get a full slate on Tuesday to go over for Wednesday morning. And then the third episode each week is going to be on Saturday. So we'll get a weekend episode going. I imagine the time will move a bit on the Saturday episode. We could be a little bit more flexible with it. But Mondays and Wednesdays are going to be around 8 a.m. Central. Thanks so much for hanging out, y'all. And I am going to post these on YouTube. Need to figure out a quick and efficient way to get them up, you know, pretty quickly after they're done so that they still have viability for like West Coast folks. I need to just go on like Fiverr and pay somebody for a thumbnail too. Because I have no skill when it comes to that. Absolutely zero. But all right, y'all, I'm going to get going. Thank y'all so much for coming out. Again, back Wednesday morning with more Boxes and Bull. Until then, have a good one.